Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Reston has 7 founding principles, and we'll be talking about one of them today, and that is that the importance and dignity of each individual be the focal point for all planning and take precedence over large-scale concepts. Before we get into how Reston implemented this founding principle, it's important to have some context. After World War II, suburbia took off. Inexpensive land, interstate highway systems, and mass producing of housing allowed for the creation of suburban neighborhoods. These neighborhoods were often seen as conformist, segregated by race and class, and a cultural wasteland with housing that looked the same and created isolation for residents. Reston sought to break that, putting individual needs to the forefront of planning. Zoning was one way that Reston put individual needs at the forefront in planning. So some background on zoning. Simply put, zoning divides communities into districts and determines what can and cannot be built on a specific parcel of land. What is referred to as Euclidean zoning took a firm hold on development starting in 1960s, which established very separate areas for particular uses. For example, commercial and residential development would not exist in the same zone. This led to development where residents are often living farther away from commercial areas. Reston took a different approach to zoning, creating a mixed-use zoning, and they had to work with Fairfax County in order to implement that type of zoning. As discussed in more detail in a previous video, Reston was a community for all, providing housing regardless of race, gender, or economic status. While much of Virginia was resisting desegregation even in the 1960s, housing in Reston was not segregated by race. The first village center created at Lake Anne included condos, townhouses, and single-family homes. By the late 1960s, a fellowship house, apartment building, and low-income housing were also built, all within walking distance of the village center, allowing all residents, regardless of where they were living, to have access to the plaza, which had the practical and recreational amenities needed for all individuals. Individual needs in terms of housing also took a specific form in Reston where housing did not look the same. It was very common in the 1950s for houses in suburbias to all look the same. There is a song that many of you might be familiar with called Little Boxes, where the lyrics are, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes all the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And so Reston housing took a different approach and created a variety of different kinds of housing so that nothing was all the same, and so that individuals could have different kinds of housing based on what they needed and were interested in living in. In many ways, Reston's 7 founding principles are interconnecting, and I think this idea of the importance and dignity of the individual taking such an important role connects with many of the other founding principles. The idea that you can live and work in the same community, that you're surrounded by nature, that you can take advantage of your leisure time by participating or engaging with the amenities that Reston offers. And so while the planning of Reston very specifically is guided by the importance and dignity of each individual, the other founding principles play a role here as well in ensuring that individual needs are met. We hope you enjoyed today's artifact highlight. Please check out our website, restonmuseum.org, to browse the rest of our collection, view our past publications and programs, and much, much more. Please also consider making a donation at restonmuseum.org/donation to support our mission of preserving and sharing Reston's history. Again, please let us know what you would like to see in the upcoming weeks and join us next Monday for new content.